the buys this week, the Brumbies and the Chefs. So hopefully you don't have too many of them in your fantasy team anymore. Harry does have many.
I've been siphoning them off, don't
worry. And game one, we have the Waratahs and the Inner Western Force playing again in the SCG. I'm not sure, but in Sydney, Waratahs home game. And returning this one, we have Ian Pryor from his shoulder injury. He was set to return 2 weeks ago before the bye, but then was pulled pre-game. So who knows? Captain Mudd to return from a rib injury. Rob Simmons, if you didn't know who that was by now. Henry Taifu to return from a concussion after getting knocked on his ass by Frank Lamani. We've talked up Lamani's hitting power for a scrum half. And Tevin Ferris. No news on him yet, but he was stretchered off the field with a neck injury. It's been reported to not be too serious, I think Harry said, but still no news on whether he'll be playing or not.
Yep.
Excellent. Last matchup, Waratahs 23-14 to the Force. In this game, saw the Force come out absolutely flying in round 2 of Super Rugby AU. It was pretty much all the Force the first half. I think they scored both their tries and just dominated possession and territory in the first 35 minutes or so. And the Waratahs, kind of like this last week just gone, just were a new team running out at second half. Just came out, started fresh, nilled all boys, and just they scored every point. I think it was 23 unanswered points in the second, and the Force did not have any answers. It's been a story of a lot of the Force's games, really, has just been to start really strongly and then just ease off. But yes, Waratahs will be riding high after shellacking the Reds last week. They're certainly in the finals hunt, I think. How is it looking on the table, guys? I think the Waratahs, if they win this game, they're...
Yeah. No, the Tars and Reds are on par. Is that correct, Harry? Same points?
Yeah, I think so. Then the Tars have obviously got the Force, I think the Rebels and the Brums to go. And the Reds have got the Rebels and the Brumbies and a bye, I think.
And the Force. I think they've all got basically the same 3 matchups because it's only been one so far in round 2 of the fixtures.
Yeah, so it looks like it's between those 2 teams pushing for a finals berth.
So someone's going to need an upset, or they can't both go through the same, beat the Force and lose to the other 2 if they want to lock themselves in for a finals place.
I think the Tars have got about a 40-point lead on the for and against, though, which is obviously very significant.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. So, it'll be the Tars riding high, as we said. The Force coming off a bit of a heartbreak when they lost in super time to the Rebels just before the bye after John O'Lance missed a match-winning kick in the 76th minute. Devastating. So, how will they bounce back?
Easy match-winning kick.
Easy match-winning kick, yep. If Tevin Ferris isn't right, we'll likely see Kane Kateka come in, and he offers a bit of punch. He's a hard hit.
Yeah, he's a Western Australian local, and
to him.
He's a West Australian local, and he's a hard runner, hard defender, and it'll be good to see him have another run for them because he's been good in the past.
Excellent. Jake Gordon, can he play himself into a Wallabies spot? Really, is he technically the incumbent almost now? He was in the Wallabies squad. It's I don't know.
White would be the
White. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, look, I think right now he'd probably be your 4th choice halfback at best.
Wow, I'm not subscribing to that at all. But
at best,
you putting him behind Joe Powell.
Currently, yeah. I mean, he's had one match here and one match there. He hasn't had that much body of work to actually put himself in the contention for the Wallabies spot. Joe Powell's had quite a few runs there for the Wallabies. He's been playing quite well. I prefer Jake Gordon, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's sitting above him after having one solid match.
Very good. I do, so just too bad. I think we can expect the Tars to dominate the line out and scrums against the Force. It's an area they've been really good in. The Force lost 5 of their 15 lineouts against the Tars in round 2. Tars had triple the line breaks. And the Tars in the second half, that half where I said that they just came back flying, they had 68% possession and 78% territory. So the Force really need to get stuck into their second half and play a full 80 minutes. The Tars chose to attack a lot to the left side of the field, so I can't see why they wouldn't just attack Marcel Baraki all night. It's time to go to war, Baraki, and he's going to cop it. Any last ones in this, guys? I mean, obviously, Tars are going to take it out. What do we think? I'm going to say I'll go with 13 plus. I'll go 15. Tars by 15.
Look, I think the Waratahs are up and down. I think it's been a very long time since we've seen them put a match out like that, let alone 2 weeks in a row. And the Force have been in the fight for most matches. I don't think the Waratahs will necessarily run away with it. I think they'll be confident and they'll be able to hold them off. But I think it'll be, one score, maybe 7 points or something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, Nelson, I think the Force have built quite well. I still don't think they quite have the fitness to compete for 80 minutes. They seem to get run down a lot. But the Waratahs are a team that are very young, very inconsistent. They got a bit carried away with themselves after playing some good footy despite losing against the Brumbies. It wouldn't surprise me if they kind of lose their focus a little bit again this week. And I hope they put this up in their change room wall so that it doesn't actually happen.
Just a picture of our faces. Is that it? Just
yeah, 100%.
Very good. I don't like. I hope I don't get too carried away by their performance from last week. You should have heard what the rubbish show was, how I was trashing them before the game on the weekend. But I don't think we've seen enough from the Force to win this game. That's Mike. So let's move on to the next matchup: the Reds and Rebels. And I think this will be an interesting one as well. It's just going to depend which Reds team turns up, really.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was obviously 18-all with the world's worst and first super time last time around, but close fought game between both teams. This time it is in Queensland, so it's the day trip for the Rebels, which I think takes a lot out of teams. I think that's a pretty big leg up for Queensland, and they'll be reeling, knowing that they'll really slid down the pecking order after getting belted by the Tars last week. So you'd expect that with someone like Thorne in your change rooms and leading your coaching sessions, they're going to get absolutely hammered this week. There's going to be no stone unturned. I think you saw him make a host of changes at halftime last week. I wouldn't be surprised if those people all started. That's Tate surely starts first.
Oh, please.
Has to. I have no idea how they benched him 2 weeks in a row.
He must have 40 minutes this week.
Yeah, he must have been going out surfing or something. He honestly must have pissed off Thorne. That's the only logical explanation.
I agree, to be honest. I agree. Yeah. Fraser McBride as well and Murphy as well. BPA, after looking definitely the more solid of the two hookers so far this competition, was atrocious at the line out.
Yeah, so, the last 2 weeks, they've actually lost 5 lineouts each week. The last time these two matched up, the Reds lost 6 lineouts. And a lot of them are bad throws. It's not as simple as, someone's getting up and taking the ball. There's been a lot wrong with that lineout.
I mean, watching last week, it was relatively dry in the first half. BPA, even the ones that they were winning, he was underthrowing very low to the jumper. It just, I don't know. I don't know if his confidence is shot, but both their hookers are really battling.
Yeah.
So thanks for that trade, Nels. Look, Harry Wilson, I know you guys were wondering what the hell happened to him last week. And don't get me wrong, as someone that has used him to carry me through a lot of weeks, 1 point didn't quite help in my loss. But I think he still had a huge amount of carries and tackles. So I'm not too worried about him there. I think you'll see him get back to his normal. He's got those reproducible scores because of how big his work rate is. So I think worry about.
Yeah, look, I think he's a really solid player, and maybe he's going to actually learn from that. I think, yeah, he definitely got his hands on the ball. For me, the biggest thing was there was no tackle bust, line breaks. He got 20 odd meters rather than his huge meters normally. No offloads. He didn't seem to, have a little bit of that oomph that he normally has. But everyone's allowed to do that on a week
I think
occasionally.
the entire team was, though, to be fair.
I was going to say, I don't think anyone
the
on the Reds
Waratahs
did.
shut down the entire Reds team, so it's hard for one man to be running 100 meters, throwing offloads and busting tackles when the team's going backwards for 80 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. I just think he was a little bit off.
Yeah. I agree the entire team was. The Rebels comprehensively hammered the Brumbies in wet weather footy, an absolute masterclass last week.
The Red Bulls?
Yeah, it did sound like the Red Bulls.
No,
Talking about Formula One
Red
now.
Bulls.
Yeah, I'd call them the Red Bulls. Why not? With the energy they showed, mate, they may as well have been in the first half last week.
They need some, yeah, that's what we say.
Yeah, they need some.
Anyway, there was a masterclass in the wet. Deegan and Tamur, that change I think was really, really good for them. I think their dominance in the kicking game, field position, and Matt Tamur's ability to either take the ball forwards into contact, harden up their defensive line, and then also put his probing kicks in behind. Just think that they were incredibly dominant in that area. And, we talked about the Reds line-out woes. I think, it's just going to become an even more useful tactic for them to try and take advantage of this week. And I could see those two just pinning the corner and playing field position.
Yeah, I think that combination worked really well. And it looks like, it's early days, it's only Monday, but it looks like it could be a wet weather matchup this week again for them. So I would expect to see those two at 10-12 again and interchangeably using their kicking game, because they both did it, both knew how to look for corners. And I think I'd be quite worried if I was the Reds, knowing that you're probably going to be facing a lot of line-outs when you've been pretty average of late.
And the Reds, if you think about the Reds back three for kickers, Jock Campbell or Bryce Hegarty at the back is good, but Jordy Pataya and Filippo Daugunu on the sides, not particularly great kicker. I know Daugunu can kick for goals, he's played soccer and everything, but just still not particularly well-versed in territory battles.
Yeah. Look, it's obviously an incredibly important match for the Reds to keep their finals run alive, so they shouldn't be lacking any motivation, but looking at the stats from their lineup, they've lost an average of 5 lineouts over the last 3 weeks and 6 in the last time they versed the Rebels 5 weeks ago. So they've got real problems there. I'm not really sure how they get over that. And, I thought Angus Blythe would have kind of plugged that hole a little bit more, but he obviously hasn't. You mentioned Jock Campbell, Hegarty, Pataya. Look, Pataya's still in doubt. They still haven't said if he's actually going to play. Obviously, his father passing away, I think he's doing it pretty tough. So it's completely understandable if he doesn't have a run. That might see Jack Hardy in. I'm not sure that he's got much of a kicking game either, though. I think he just seems like a kind of pure finisher. And I wouldn't say he's particularly good under a high ball either. So I think that doesn't strengthen them there. Like you said, Hegarty, if he starts, I think he's probably their best option. I could see them, instead of starting Hardy, putting Hegarty to fullback and Campbell to the wing if he is fit as well.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what they'll go with, and it's their best kicking option there to try and counter that kind of game. On the flip side of things, to the forward pack, we're going to keep saying it every week until it happens, but where is Pony Fa'amasuili? He's clearly their best player by a country mile, and he needs to start.
Without a doubt. Get the man on.
He's a perfect mold of an impact player, but he can do it from the start of the match. Just get that man on and give him as long as possible until he's dead, and then take him off.
Yeah. And look, the other thing is the Reds' discipline has been atrocious. So last time they played, there was 2 yellow cards to the 2 Reds centres. They give away huge amount of penalties all the time. I think it was, funnily enough, was 15-8 last time to the Rebels.
Yeah.
But it's been a huge problem for them, and I don't really see how they turn this one around. I think the Rebels, if they can get their attacking gear against a fired-up Reds defence, I think that'll be the game, and I expect them to do that by kicking it for the corners.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think my bet is this game is actually in Queensland, different to last week. So I think there's a chance that we see Geordie Pateo turn out. You know, there's a difference between staying at home and not having to have a massive trip and playing. So my money would be that he's to start on the wing, which is something they desperately need. We don't know about Jock Campbell, but Bryce Hegarty is a all round good footy player at 15. He inserted himself a fair bit in at first receiver as well. Gives them that extra ball player. But, it's hard to go against the Rebels after that week last week for me.
Yeah, Geordie Bataille, particularly Queensland, has gone back into full lockdown, closed the borders. So if he flew down to play last weekend, he would have had to go back into quarantine, wouldn't have been able to attend his father's funeral. So that was a pretty big deal about him not playing last week against the Tars.
They're also saying because they're in a rugby team bubble, by associating with his family at the moment, that he may have to go into isolation before joining the side. So you might not see him at all.
Yeah.
Very true. But all right, well, I'll give my pick on this one. I don't think the Rebels will be able to reproduce it in Queensland. That's the one thing for me, is that the Rebels, whilst they have been building since they joined the competition, consistency has never been the name of their game. So I expect the Reds to be a different side at home in Queensland. Even if Geordie Bataille is not playing, if they get Tate McDermott in there, get the boys fired up, I'm going to actually back the Reds to take this one. Just also in the light of how Super Rugby has gone. It's very much like the South African teams, Harry, if you remember, always calling just the opposite of what happened the week before. So that's what I'll pick. Harry, who do you have?
I'm going to go Rebels by 8. I think the Reds were very lucky to come back into the game last time.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean the way of the Rebels, even though my heart tells me to go for the Reds. I think the Rebels have been building every single week and building to this point where last week was a comprehensive win. Yes, they've had a few hiccups. The Reds, I think they've been up and down, iffy on a lot of occasions, even though I think they have potential to be the better side. So I think the Rebels are going to get done by 6 points.